What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Parabellum Podcast. I'm Sean, your host and owner of Parabellum Strength and Fitness. And once again, I have the privilege of having my friend Gary from Fit Method Charlotte on the show. Say what's up, man.
Hey man, good to be back. Had a great time last time. Looking forward to another great conversation.
Absolutely. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the specificities behind conditioning, and just going to kind of let Gary also talk about the wellness seminar that Fit Method Charlotte did this past weekend. Just show the diversity that Fit Method Charlotte goes into, and so maybe that can get that out there to some of my listeners, whoever that may be, and that might be something that they're interested in as well. So, Gary, you want to let us know about what went on this past weekend there?
Yeah, we'll kind of start with the seminar. So, I mean, I wasn't present, which is good. I mean, I was there, but so we have a coach, Coach Zach, who works at one of our other, we have another location in what we call an area called Indian Trail. And then Isabel, who is a full on registered dietitian, she came. And so they met with some of the administrative staff of a local specialty educational center and talked about how nutrition and recovery, but especially nutrition, can like influence a child's cognitive development and how they operate in that learning environment. So by all accounts, I came in at the tail end of it. It went really well. I met some of the people and said it went well. So we want to always educate people with no ulterior motive, right? We just want to educate like you do with your podcast. And in the course of that, of course, people start to ask questions. Well, tell me more. How do I, I know nutrition's part of it. I also know I need to move more often. So that opens up the channels there. So we're trying to be more educational. I texted my buddy, who's an absolute stud. His name is Dan Fichter. You should look him up as well, Sean, if you've never heard of Dan. Dan is on the level. He's good friends with Chris Corfist, Tony Holler, Cal Dietz.
All
Yeah,
right.
Dan Fichter is probably the top neuro performance coach in the United States of America. So he's up in Rochester, New York, upstate New York. We're gonna bring him down in October, November. Man, if you can come from Texas, then we'll talk about it because he comes in for like 8 to 10 hours at our facility and teaches this. It'll blow your mind. I mean, I was like laughing like a little kid last year when he came. So we try to educate and be teachers, but we try to be students as well. And I think that balance is very important
Mhm.
for all strength coaches, all nutritional coaches, like anybody who wants to really impact lives. You got to be a teacher. You've also got to be a student continuously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've said throughout my military career and still at this point of life, when you're done learning, you're done living.
Good
Never,
way.
never think, well, I've learned enough.
You
Because if
can't.
you've learned enough, then just sit down on the couch because you're not going anywhere. You're not moving forward any longer. So, I think that's one of the reasons you and I get along so well. We're confident in what we do, but we also know we can always improve, and we're always searching for ways to improve.
And
And that's why I appreciate you. You make me better.
that's it, man. Right back at you. I mean, think about it, right? Like the more you learn, we talk about jujitsu sometimes. I'm a blue belt, hoping to get purple next year, but it takes time and I've been busy. Um, but when you look at the guys who are black belts and beyond, there's one called the coral belt, which is like beyond black belts.
Hmm.
You talk to those guys and they'll tell you that the more they learn, they realize the more they have to learn.
Hmm.
The humility grows and the quest for knowledge grows. It doesn't diminish. And that's how we have to take this on. Listen, fitness and movement and neuro performance and nutrition coaching, all these things is an ever evolving field. If you think you know it all in a year, you've lost the pooch, man. You've screwed it, but you're done. You've been
Absolutely.
lapped by people who you should be far better than. So yeah, there's no question that we try to stay very relevant in our learning. And the best form of mastering knowledge is to teach it. So we learn it, we pass it on, and that's kind of the world that we
Yep.
live
Absolutely.
in. Yeah.
Absolutely. You and I both learned that in the military. If you want to learn how to do something, go teach a class on it because then you have to pack that knowledge into your head. And then when you teach the class, even though you're probably going to mess it up and make some mistakes, through that, you've got somebody right there with you to go say, hey, this is where you messed up, but overall, job well done.
100%.
Um, when we're talking about the wellness and how nutrition plays such a huge role in cognitive function with youth. Uh, that kind of rolls right into what I wanted to talk about with conditioning of youth athletes. And, you just said it. There's so many different pieces to physical fitness that we don't think about, neurologically. That's a huge piece. The diet portion, and then how diet also helps a young person stay focused. And if we're feeding them Fruit Loops and Cheerios, don't be surprised when they're not focused, you know. And then what are we doing as far as to condition our youth athletes? Are we just having them run sprints up and down the field and expecting that to make them, let's say, a better football player or a wrestler, or baseball player? For soccer, okay, I'll kind of give a little bit on soccer, a little
A
bit,
little bit, a
but
little
not
bit.
much, not
Right.
much, because you just mentioned his name, Coach Tony Holler. You know, Tony Holler, his feed the cat method. He's not screaming to train max sprinting every day of
Nope.
the week.
Nope.
As a matter of fact, he says micro dose it
He
twice a
like
week,
twice a week. That's
twice a
it.
week. And I
Tired is
believe,
the enemy with Tony Holler. Tired is the enemy.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why do we see, and I know the answer, and I don't mean to uh, put them down because they are dads that are volunteering their time. But we see this, well, if you want to get them in shape, just have them do what we've always done. And I mean, when our kids played together, that's what the kids ended up doing, was just running a bunch of sprints at the end of practice
Hmm.
for conditioning,
Hmm.
you know. And I really, like you said, educate, educate. If you're a youth coach, you've got to take a long, it is a somewhat painful process with USA football to get certified to coach in the youth leagues. But the thing is, it's a great class. Don't get me wrong, very informative. However, they don't talk about the conditioning portion.
Right.
They don't talk about really. They don't talk a whole lot of skill outside of blocking and tackling. And to me, conditioning is a skill.
Yeah. It's a good way of framing it. Absolutely.
You know, and conditioning should, uh, in some way, mimic at least some of the skills of the game.
Yes. As an overall generalization, absolutely. Yes.
Yes, recently we just started down here with our conditioning. Some of the drills that I have kids doing, a mirror drill, two kids facing one another, just sidestepping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for 10 seconds, along a 10-yard length. And then somebody throws a Hiko stick up
Yeah.
and let them see who can get to it. They've been sidestepping back and forth in a good universal athletic position for 10 seconds. Let's see who's still got the legs to jump after it and compete a little bit.
Sure.
You know, uh, NFL three cone drill
Yeah.
right out of the NFL combine.
Yeah.
To me, that's asking a football player to do a lot that they are going to mimic during a game. And the
100%.
sooner a youth athlete is exposed to that kind of drill, the better. We're not
Sure.
expecting perfection out of it, but hey, go through it as many times as possible, get them up to speed, like really putting forth all their effort and the intensity into it. And watch, they're a little bit better conditioned when it comes to the game. They're not gassed, but they also have acquired some new skill. What's your
Sure.
thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. They learn how to decelerate, reaccelerate, move laterally, get out of that sagittal plane, right? Which wind sprints is all sagittal, really, unless you're focused on the turn and the deceleration. So the way we frame it at Fit Method kind of are, and this, it's taken time to shape into what it is now. But I think I mentioned Dan Fichter before
Mm-hmm.
we went live here. The first thing we address, when we talk about conditioning, I think about just preparation, right? Preparation for whatever the sport is, whether it's a tactical athlete who needs to pass a PT test or just be able to function in his or her job. If it's a youth football player who's still growing, which they all are, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing we approach is breath work and neurological resets. So we use a formula called reflexive performance reset. Didn't make it up. Cal Dietz is part of that. Chris Corfist, a couple other
Hmm.
guys. Tremendous stuff because I'm gonna get a little deep here, but if you think about the nervous system, Sean, even young kids these days, right? Just because they have the anxiety from the phones and these TikTok and all this,
Mm.
they're wound tight, man. And so when you think about sympathetic nervous system, right? People think fight or flight, which sounds kind of good. Oh, I'm in a game. I want to feel that fight. But what people fail to mention is fight or flight also is associated with freeze.
Hmm.
In other words, when I'm stressed, I will lock up.
Yep.
And what's interesting is there's studies where it's not just the coach yelling at the kid that will make the kid lock up. Sometimes the coach praising the kid. Great job, Sean.
Mm.
Now the kid's thinking, well, what did I do so well? Now he's not even living in the moment. So we work on breath work because diaphragmatic breathing is really the only way to transition from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system,
Absolutely.
performance world.
Yes.
And then using breath work, and you're starting to see, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing it now, the Detroit Lions. It's starting to make its way, just like how the Ohm is, into the NFL.
Hmm.
So using diaphragmatic breathing with even with kids, because you teach them how to do it. The cool thing about RPR, yeah, you learn how to do it to people, but ultimately it's for entire teams to teach them how to do it to themselves. So
Yes.
using proper breath work and like pressure point resets, man, it gets them into a flow state where they're not going to get hurt, they're not going to tense up, they're going to be relaxed, and in that relaxed state, they can play better, move better, feel better, and not feel the freezing. So neurologically, we talk about that first. Then people don't realize, you know this, I know this, but the average sport parent doesn't realize whether it's youth athletes or professional football players, for example, what adapts first, muscles or tendons and ligaments? Muscles. Muscles adapt quickly,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Connective tissue takes a long time to adapt.
Yes, it
So if
does.
I'm whacking down those muscles and not giving those kids those isometric movements and other movements to strengthen the tendons and ligaments, I'm doing them a disservice. So when we talk about conditioning, man, we try to condition the tendons and ligaments. Because when we talk about conditioning and we delve into conditioning, it's not just about improving their performance in a given sport or activity. It's about preventing injury in that given sport or activity, right? So I've
About
seen
creating.
protocols.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, 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 good. I've seen protocols where, yes, the kid's getting faster, but I can see how the movement is off. They're having
Yes.
prep the tendons and ligaments. And so, although they're getting faster, it's almost irresponsible because now with great speed comes great responsibility, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So, we address that first. So, breath work, neurological resets, tendon and ligament resets, and then we get into conditioning as it applies to a given sport and energy systems and so forth.
That that is outstanding. That is outstanding.
Appreciate it.
The I think getting into the breath work, moving into the parasympathetic
Yeah,
nervous system, I think that's huge because you touched on it perfectly right there. Kids with social media today, and
dude.
then kids at school, the pressures of I know with, you know, my 10-year-old, he battles basically freezing when it comes to a test.
Right.
And then he has figured out how to calm himself down and then go blow the test out of the water, but then put him on a football field and he's so afraid of screwing up.
Yeah.
And I honestly, without even, I thought about it this weekend, like, what am I doing wrong as a coach? And I came back in and I started working parasympathetic breathing with him, and he unlocked.
Yeah.
And, he comes back to me, he's like, Dad, that really works. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and then isometric work. That's the other one because, I'll get kids in the gym, and of course, everybody sees some kid doing an iron chair.
Sure.
You're torturing them. This isn't the army. No, no, I'm not torturing them. I'm ensuring that their ligaments and tendons can handle the load of their body weight.
100%.
Because what you're going to do is you're going to take that 12-year-old next year, they're going to go to school and they're going to be placed in a weight room and they're going to have to lift weights.
Right.
Whether those ligaments or tendons are have the ability to support That weight plus their body weight depends on this moment right here,
Yeah.
and that thought, it kills parents to see their kid over there just shaking up on a wall, but it's got to be done.
But
It,
they don't see the finished product. They don't think,
right.
well, he's just standing there or he's just doing an isometric lunge. How is that move going to make him or her faster? He's not even moving.
He's not even moving, but we're
But
we're increasing that tendon and ligament strength. We're increasing good joint stiffness. That's about the best way I can put it. You've got to have a little bit of stiffness in that joint, or basically it looks like a rocket ship that just fell apart. You've got the super fast kid that's never done any isometric work. Never. You are begging to see everything in that knee just come flying apart at some point in time
sure.
without the isometric work, without proper biomechanic coaching. I posted a TikTok today of kids at the gym that I train them, and they were doing a mirror drill. And I said, hey, it's great to let kids have some fun at the end of a training session. And I use that, allow that to have them some fun. But you've still got to coach their mechanics. Don't
Yes.
just let them go off the rails and
Yes.
forget everything they just did. Stop them, work through their mechanics, then allow them to go back into it. Slow them down if you have to. I'll get parents, why is he running slower this week? Well, let me show you the video of him last week. You see this right here, his mechanics are way off. So
Yeah.
now we're correcting the mechanics so that he can get faster. Give it a few weeks, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, and then we'll get to the hard stuff.
Right.
The problem with youth sports and the problem with a lot of youth parents, again, not putting them down, they don't understand there's people like me and you out there. And they think that we cost, we're going to ask for their rent or their mortgage to make their kid better, because there is a lot of people out there who are doing that.
Sure.
So it's either they don't understand that there's people like me and you out there, or they don't understand what exactly it is that we do, or they
Sure.
think that we're going to charge them, their firstborn child.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
So that's kind of where I battled it. And then I'll get the parents, well, it doesn't look like you're really, they don't come out of here sweaty and dying.
Right. They expect
That's
them to
not
go
the
in their game.
purpose.
Right.
That's not the purpose.
No.
I'm educating them. I want them to know how to move their body, because let's face it, when's the last time a 12-year-old got a full ride to, Notre Dame?
Right.
They're not going to set the world on fire this year.
Right.
But if we can teach them the right way right now, when they're 16, 17, they might.
Absolutely.
That that is the that's the reason we do this. They
Yeah, you're
might.
correcting for those kids, right? If they get, I've seen some really tremendous athletes get hurt many times, not under our watch, but I've seen it happen through other people that I know. And I don't care how good you are. If you keep getting injured, the career goes away.
Mhm.
The hope goes away. You tear a
That's
couple of ACLs a couple of times, you see how the most explosive athlete becomes timid or just never regains his or her speed.
yeah. Yeah.
So a couple of things that you had mentioned earlier. Uh, you mentioned joint stiffness. That's absolutely, people think, well, stiffness is bad. I don't want a stiff joint. No, you better believe you want good ankle stiffness when you plant it to the ground. You've seen in another sport, in NBA, we had three superstars tear their Achilles in this last playoffs.
Hmm.
Lillard, if they made it to the playoffs, but I know Tatum and of course Halliburton in Game 7. Like,
Yep.
talk about the highest stakes possible, right? And he was having himself a game too.
Hmm.
You don't have proper ankle stiffness when you strike the ground. You see the calf strain happens first, and then it's almost
Yeah.
after the calf
Well,
can't support it, and then the Achilles blows out.
Halliburton had been battling a calf strain for what, 3 weeks?
A while.
You
And
know,
I don't blame the guy because he wanted to give it a shot. It's Game
well, yeah,
7. I don't blame
absolutely.
him.
Go for it.
But with the lack of ankle stiffness and proprioceptive recovery,
Yes.
people don't realize this is not a 3 week. When you blow out an Achilles, he's gone next season. He
A
ain't
whole
playing
year.
next year.
A whole year.
Well, granted, those guys are set financially, but it's not about financial. So for the young athletes, though, we want to prevent those injuries. So joint stiffness absolutely is a
Hmm.
thing and needs to be trained. Talking about the youth, so there's a guy named Douglas Heel. He's from South Africa. And he is world renowned because Douglas Heel invented something some years ago called Be Activated, which was kind of the precursor to RPR, which I mentioned earlier with Cal Dietz. And he was working with the choir. I think it was the New Zealand or the South African boys choir, singers, taught them breath work, had them do what he calls the NBS. And is in November, the ninja butt squeeze. Basically, can you squeeze your butt, but no one knows you're squeezing your butt? Right? And these kids were able to go 2 notes higher in their vocals
Oh, yeah.
by teaching them how to breathe and engage their glutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our football players don't care about singing 2 notes higher, but the choir master, like the person, he couldn't believe it. In years of teaching vocalists, he can't get 2 notes higher collectively. But if you can get that kind of feedback from singers, imagine what proper muscle activation and proper breathing will do for athletes all the way to the highest level, right?
Yeah.
So those two things kind of play into it. Like, yes, you need joint stiffness, and yeah, it's incredible with young athletes what proper breath work, because they are. I think we were less high strung as kids, man. We were on our bikes, biking around. We were carefree more
Yeah.
so. The pressures on kids now are definitely more. The TikTok thing, they're so used to this, and
Well,
so
yeah,
whether they realize it or not, they are in constant sympathetic dominance, nervous system.
absolutely.
And so we
100%.
mitigate that. So conditioning, when I think about when you mentioned conditioning to me as a precursor to our conversation tonight, that's all part of it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have to know the energy systems, right? So even with soccer players, what is the old school protocol for soccer players off season or during in season? Just go run. Just go run.
Yep. Yep.
Well, and the coach will tell you, listen, my midfielder might run 6 miles in a game. Right, I understand that. But is your midfielder running at just one pace?
No.
Negative.
Yeah.
He or she has to be able to have moments of sprinting, recover in between those sprints, change direction laterally, jump to head a ball, right? Fend off a guy, a defender, an offensive, depending on what side of the ball they're on. They have to be able to do all these things. So them running laps senselessly, endlessly.
That turns him into a marathon runner.
Right.
And last time, if you look around, no, soccer players are not the biggest in the world, but
They're
look
not
at the size of their legs. And people go, well, they get all that from all the running. No, they don't. You are not getting any hypertrophy from just running.
You know how many people I meet? I met a guy today, great guy. Man, I haven't worked out legs in years. I've been running and cycling. I thought that's all I needed. Well, now his glutes don't work, and so his back hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a lot of people think if I run, my legs are set. I mean, even us in the army, we didn't do too much. We ran and we rocked, though. That's the difference. We rocked, we ran, we did
Yeah.
different things. So yeah, man, that's kind of the way I look at the conditioning piece. Then you do have to do the cardio as it applies,
Yeah,
the
you
strength
do.
work as it applies. So with your football players, you're having them do things where they're explosive, which is good, right? They're
Yep.
changing direction. They're moving out of the sagittal plane. They're going side to side. They're reacting with the stick. When you toss the stick, they got to react. All those things matter. Working the posterior chain, working unilateral stability. These are things that we can all do without any equipment with a collective group of kids, right? Single leg
Absolutely.
RDLs. If they're not doing that at some point in their warm up, something's wrong. That's an
Oh,
eccentrically loaded hamstring stretch on one leg, which is what all the top sprinters in the world will do as part of their preparation. So,
Frankenstein's, single
yeah,
leg RDLs,
all those things. You can close your
all those
eyes
things.
and stand on one leg, work the proprioceptive work, right?
Yep.
Get the glutes to fire up. Like these are the things I think about when we talk about conditioning. It drives me nuts. Even Mikey's going through. I have no problem saying it. On Mikey's going through that now. He's working. Mikey's blessed, right? God is blessed. Our family is blessed. Your family, like we have. Mikey's working one on one since you and I spoke with Hakeem Nicks.
No kidding.
Yes.
Yeah, he's blessed.
Twice a week. And Hakeem is a tremendous human being. I mean, the guy is the
I've
kindest.
never heard a bad thing about that guy.
No, he's the kindest guy. He come to our facility a few times. He trained with Coach Ernest, True Speed, who I talked to you about last time.
Yeah.
You'll meet him eventually at some point, I'm sure. But so Hakeem and I knew each other. And I said, and like, he had a receiver coach who was kind of traveling. I reached out to Hakeem because we have a mutual friend, and he put him through he did put him through an old school 1 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, hot as heck workout to make sure Mikey wouldn't quit on him. And he didn't. He cramped up twice, didn't quit. So now he's working with Hakeem 2 times a week to learn the ins and outs of being a receiver at the absolute highest level.
Wow. Yeah, he's blessed.
No, he's blessed, and
Super
he
blessed.
knows that. he's
Yep.
starting to figure it out, right? I figure where I was going with this, but basically, you have to know like he's blessed. Not all kids will have that opportunity,
That's right.
but they have the ability to go through conditioning that actually applies to their sport. They don't run them ragged. So Mikey has the benefit of working with Hakeem, but with his football team, they're doing the old school methodology of let's run these kids ragged. I think you said in your last podcast, they shouldn't be doing conditioning every day. When are
Yep.
you going to recover? When's the adaptation
Yep.
phase? But that's what they're doing with him. Every day's conditioning.
Hmm. And again, go back to Coach Tony Holler.
Yes.
You either feed the cat or you starve the cat. And if you're doing the conditioning every day, you're starving the cat.
Yeah.
You're starving the cat by over feeding it. You're just shoving
Sure.
food down its mouth and you're
Sure.
strangling it. And luckily down here, uh, I'm got to be blessed and put on the board. And I just said, hey, do y'all want me to do the conditioning? Absolutely. Yes, you do it. You know,
Awesome.
uh, they look at me wild because I've got kids out there doing a medicine ball chase drill, which again puts you in a universal athletic position, sink the
Yeah.
kid's hip, bring the ball in tight to the chest, and then fire it out and chase it,
Exploding, being explosive. Sure.
being
Sure.
explosive with a little bit of resistance because in 3 weeks, we're going to do that with another human being on the other end of that.
Sure.
And I want these kids to have at least a little bit of that resistance again, building up some of that joint stiffness through the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders. And I'm over there teaching them how to do this. And I'm go back to the glutes. I'm chewing them out. Squeeze your butt cheeks. That's the best way I could, because they're kids.
Yeah.
Squeeze your butt cheeks as hard as you can when you fire that ball out. Keep your upper back, squeeze your shoulder blades together like you have a broomstick between your shoulder blades. That's what's going to help you push. And I'm starting to get some kids that are like, oh, when I do that, that works,
Sure.
you know, but you don't hear a lot of coaches talking through this. I think that's something that I would love for, say, USA football to incorporate into uh, their seminars. Have an NFL strength and conditioning coach get on there and work through these different body positions that these kids are going to be in, and then give youth football, some, here's some exercises you can do. Because I mean, I've got 3 days a week in 2 weeks to get these kids ready.
Right.
And if they haven't been coming to me all summer over at my gym and at Revive, not my gym, but I
No.
work there,
Yeah.
or coming to my house, then what is 2 weeks really going to do?
Sure.
And that's something that I think both you and I can agree. This is a business, but it's a passion.
It has to
And
be.
educating kids, seeing kids succeed, you know, it's just something that I really wish there was a little bit more push, especially from school systems,
Sure.
to, hey, even at the youth age, let's get somebody in here who can teach them how to do these things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. It's
it,
important. And people don't see the value. Like, I think we've talked about this in the past. Like, it's hard to justify. It's one thing if your kid is 17 years old, about to head into the senior year, they're a rising 12th grader and they're getting looked at by Clemson University or whatever.
right?
It's easy to justify. When they're 10 years old and they're not sure what they want to do, it's hard. So I understand parents kind of being,
Yeah,
and that's where the psychology becomes into the, if the kid says, Mom, Dad, I really want to do this, and I'm taking me to travel football, and I'm practicing 4 days a week, and I'm lifting weights, or I'm doing strength work. That's when the parent has to say, okay, we got to support you, and everybody's got different, financial abilities. I
absolutely.
understand that, but whether it's part of a group with a qualified coach or one-on-one, if you can, whatever, you find what you can. Otherwise, you're better off having the kid not play a sport, in my opinion, right? I think
100%.
there needs to be a strength conditioning piece. Man, I don't care if the parent goes online and learns something basic and teaches the kid how to do glute bridges,
Yep.
right? Some posterior pelvic tilt, some single leg RDLs,
Yep.
pull ups with a band, whatever it may be, but do something with that kid.
There's so much information out there, so much bad information,
That's the
but
problem.
also
It's
good information. I
hard to
mean,
wait.
you can, yeah, it is very hard to wade through because everybody's going to hit the easy button. I'm going to go to YouTube or Instagram. And
Sure.
there's so much bad on those two but you could go to PubMed. PubMed has some good strength and conditioning stuff on there. It's very, to me, it's way on the safe side. Uh, American College of Sports Medicine, there's some good stuff in there. People just don't know where to look, even though we're in the information age and that's all right at your fingertips.
A lot of information, though. The more information that's out there, if no one's there to navigate it with you, it can become overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, overwhelming.
My
I
own
mean,
Melinda's asking me all the time, like, what should we do? I mean, and I'm like, man, if I wasn't here to, answer those questions for her, poor thing. Like, and so a lot of other parents that don't have a background in strength conditioning, it's definitely challenging. And then they'll look at a place like a D1. Again, I don't mind talking about them, which is hit or miss. It's hit or miss.
it is.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful facilities,
absolutely.
but trainers can be very inconsistent. Some are good, some are not good. A lot of them aren't good. You know what
It,
I mean?
it
So it's hard to figure out where do I take my kid. But that's why it's important for us to have these conversations, because if at least they have a framework of, okay, there should be some kind of breath work should be happening in some
mhm,
capacity. There should be some conversation about tendon and ligament integrity. There should be a conversation about the posterior chain,
ab-
about energy systems. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, but man, if they're working on that aerobic energy system, just running and running and running,
yep.
and they're playing an explosive sport, and then the parent can understand,
Why
my
are they
kid
slower?
ran 5 miles yesterday. Why is he or she so slow 2 days from
Yep.
now? Why? Because they're
Train the
learning how to
wrong
run
energy
a long
system.
distance.
Train the wrong energy system, and you're training the wrong muscle fiber type.
Sure, sure.
You
Your
know,
type twos aren't fired. So when you talk about that, that's where they need to have if at least if they have a framework, they can look and say, they might not be able to identify good training versus bad training or bad coaching, but at least they'll say, okay, this coach is running my son ragged.
yep.
Coach Sean mentioned that this is not good. My 100-meter sprinter is being asked to run 4 miles. What does this have to do with track? Right?
Mhm.
My wide receiver is being asked to run whatever, you know, wind sprints until they're tired, and then they're having them when they're fatigued. Now it's different in the army, right? We do stress shoots. Get that
Yep.
soldier tired. He or she is barely breathing. Now let me see you shoot. But that's preparing for combat, which is very
Absolutely.
different. Very
Absolutely.
different.
Yeah.
I think you know who Pablo Tsatsouline is. It's the guy who
Name
brought this
sounds
up.
familiar.
So he's the guy who founded Strong First
Okay.
and RKC. He's the guy who basically brought the kettlebell to the United States of
Okay.
America,
Yep.
which is pretty significant because now they're everywhere, and I love kettlebells. Um, but he talks about that, right? Like that whole thing.
I, you know, I think that people, and I think for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that's what people get a little bit scared of is that army mentality coming from me. Like he's gonna have my kid, with a
Yeah,
rucksack, and I go, no, 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 we're not doing that. Hold on. What I perfected in the army was an instructional style. That's all
right.
there is to it. I know how to teach, and I know how to teach a group setting
Yeah,
with your child. Here's where I'm pulling from,
yeah.
and here's my stack of textbooks. Here's the contacts of people that I talk to and go, hey, does this sound like a good idea to you? It does to me, like you. Hey, Gary, does that sound like something? Am I on or am I off?
Yeah, you have sounding boards. You have sounding
Yeah,
boards. Very important to have that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, I think, but here again goes back to that information age. People are so afraid to use other people in the field as a sounding board or reach out or even be reached out to because, well, they're going to steal my idea. Like, bro, I don't care about your idea. And yes, I
or
probably am going to steal it and I'm going to give you the credit for it.
well, some people don't. We just had a
Yeah,
situation.
most people don't, but I have no problem copying somebody else.
I mean,
None.
yeah,
If it makes sense, I have no problem copying somebody else. And when I post it, go, hey, I got this from so and so.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm bringing this to this area. But we're in that information age, and parents, right back to it, they don't know who to look for. And this conversation is important for them to have a framework of what should I be hearing,
Right.
and why isn't my kid, why when I take my kid to training with Coach Sean or Coach Gary, why aren't they coming home, drenched and
Yeah,
exhausted? Well, because that's not the goal.
yeah.
The goal is to educate them and get them better. And as I tell my kids this, one parent asked about that. And he said his dad asked, and I said, well, here's what you can tell your dad. When I see the right amount of progress in your biomechanics, that's when I'll consider us doing one of those type training sessions.
Sure.
But until I feel comfortable that you can move correctly and move a very lightweight with the most perfect of form, I'm not going to ask you to speed that lightweight up so that you feel like you're getting smoked.
Right.
In my last podcast, I talked about, I don't mind saying it, CrossFit. I think CrossFit is great in theory. I think it gets basically bastardized
Of course.
because when you go into most CrossFit gyms, do you see someone coaching form or do you see someone yelling out time and reps?
Yeah. The
And
latter, typically.
when we're looking at Olympic lifts, I can think of very few things in a weight room more complex than a power clean, a squat clean,
Agreed.
a snatch. I don't need you to yell time and, you know, reps. Go tell that person. And I'm watching people do a complete, forget hinge hip. They're just bending over with the bar and basically doing a muscle clean with 155 pounds.
Because that is a nervous system thrasher, right?
Yeah.
Olympic lifts is a neurological, I mean, it's incredibly
Yeah.
taxing. You might want to do 1, 2, or 3 reps, not
Ab-
M reps in a minute,
absolutely.
right? If you're
Two
M
to
rep snatches, I'm sorry, there's no carry. A, it's dangerous, and B, for an athlete. So there's only been one that I know of, one professional athlete who is known, an NFL player, to have done CrossFit as his main form of training. This is a few years ago. And his name was Noshan Moreno.
Oh, yeah. I remember him
Noshan Moreno was a very talented running back,
very
right?
much so.
For some reason, decided that CrossFit would become his main form of conditioning. And this is where the whole conversation about conditioning is so crucial. Well, CrossFit, man. It's they don't get enough posterior chain work, even though they think they are with their lifting. They become
Mm-mm.
very quad dominant and they get overuse injuries. So, as luck would have it, Noshan came back and played the next year, tore his meniscus. I think he tore his ACL as well. He
I
was
believe so.
never the same
Yeah.
player ever again and retired. Was his career was done.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why you don't see professional athletes who play. I'm not talking about professional CrossFit athletes who compete.
Yes.
I'm talking about professional athletes in actual sports, other sports. They do not do CrossFit, and that's how you know, right? Have a
Mhm.
sample size. What are the top guys doing to get better at their sport? None of them are doing CrossFit. Nothing against
None of them.
CrossFit, like you said, it serves a purpose. But there's a reason why athletes should not do that as their primary form of training. It does
Yeah.
not prepare them for their sport, and it does, in my opinion, increase the risk of injury in
They
many
get
cases.
no recovery.
Well, yeah,
They get zero recovery.
yeah,
And there's zero. I'm not just talking, days between training sessions.
yeah,
I'm talking in the moment, like we just talked about. You're doing 135-pound power cleans, 30 reps as fast as you possibly can. What are you getting out of that?
sure. Tired. You're getting very
Tired.
tired.
You're getting tired. You're getting sweaty. You're spending more money on chalk, but you're
Sure,
taxing your central nervous system to the point that you're way beyond the point of zero return in that investment.
sure.
You know, and but you and I both know people look at CrossFit right now as the gold standard of fitness and conditioning.
In some
The
ways,
uneducated, the
they've
uneducated
done
crowd.
a
Let's
very
put it
good
that way.
job. CrossFit has done a tremendous job of marketing themselves and creating a community. They have
Yep,
their own jargon. They've done a great job from a marketing perspective.
they
But
have.
anybody, even a CrossFit coach, will tell you that there's no professional athletes going to train with them for their main form of training. And that tells me everything I need to know about that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Um, Good.
I won't because I did meet a few in Charlotte. I can't remember the name of the gym. We took the we took the cadets when I was an ROTC instructor. We took the cadets over there because my boss at the time was a avid CrossFitter, and he just said, CrossFit is the way the Army needs to go. And I was very young in this
Sure.
field, and I didn't have a whole lot to argue with him about. It took me about 6 months, and I had a full combat load of ammunition, and I fired every bit of it, I think, in about an hour on him. But took him over there, and I'm standing there with the coach, and I go, "How many deployments have you been on?" None. Okay. Looked at the other coach. How many deployments have you been on? Well, none. I did. Neither one of us served. So how do you know what a soldier needs?
Hmm.
What does out? This was right as the ACFT was about to roll out.
Right.
So we
Right.
we had the events. They had not come up with the new training manual, which was garbage anyway. The Army training manuals.
Sure.
They're not going to give you what you really need.
No.
But I said, so how do you know how we need to train? You don't know what a normal day for us looks like. So how do you know what we need to work? Well, you guys just need to be in great shape.
That's his answer. That was the answers from the
That
coaches.
was the answer I got. And I went,
Okay.
okay. He
Okay.
goes, it doesn't look like you have anything to worry about, man. You look like you could deadlift a house. I'm like, okay. Uh, Me as an 11 Bravo, and I mean, at this point, I was, creeping up into past my prime 11 Bravo time,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know, I said, yeah, I'm a platoon sergeant, man, or was. I can get away with deadlifting a house, and I'm still going to finish my 12-mile ruck with 60 pounds in 2 hours and 40 minutes. But do you realize how long it took for me to get to that point?
Sure.
There's a massive amount of time that required to gain both the amount of strength and rucking is conditioning. Rucking
Uh,
has very little to do with cardiorespiratory fitness. You know that. But that took a long time for me to figure that out.
Sure.
CrossFit didn't help me a bit. I did CrossFit for about 6 months. You know what I got? A lot of shoulder pain,
Yeah.
just from
You
overuse.
you can make a case, and I'm not saying that I recommend it, but I would rather have a tactical athlete saying CrossFit's best for him or her rather than a true regular sport athlete. You can make it because it's chaotic, right? Combat, you can make, I'm not saying that I agree with it, but you can make a
Yeah,
case. Combat is chaotic. You're not able to recover in combat. I mean, I can make an argument if I was going to sit there and have a jury deliberation about how CrossFit can apply to tactical athletes, especially combat arms or special operations. I can make that argument. I
right.
cannot make that argument for a football player, a basketball player, or anybody else. I
Track
just can't.
athlete, soccer player,
Yeah, I can't.
none of it.
And it just doesn't benefit in that regard. And what I was saying earlier, Pavel Tsatsouline, the kettlebell guy,
Hmm.
he distinguished between the needs and recovery times of an athlete versus a soldier. A soldier, especially in a combat deployment, you eat when you can eat. You don't get enough sleep. You don't
Right.
have recovery. You just go do what you got to do. Whereas an athlete needs the recovery if they're going to optimize performance, right? One is
Oh, absolutely.
survival, and one is performance. There's two
Yeah.
different things.
Two different
Survival is
worlds.
fight or flight. We're in fight or flight in combat all the time.
Yes.
The athlete needs to be not in fight or flight. Just like in judo or jiu-jitsu, if I'm tight and I get thrown, I will hurt myself. Well, the same
Absolutely.
with athletes. If I'm decelerating and I'm tight and I take contact to my knee and I'm all bound up, there goes my ACL. But if my parasympathetic nervous system is turned on and I'm able to decelerate because Coach Sean taught me how to drop into my hip, and now I take a hit, now I'm relaxed. Oh, I tweaked it a little bit, but I'll be fine by tomorrow. So there's a very
Absolutely.
big difference. And that's where I think CrossFit, again, you can make a case it applies to soldiers and to tactical athletes. I still think there's a better way, but I cannot make that case for traditional sport athletes. I just can't.
I got to agree to disagree with you on this one, brother. I just can't listen to the CrossFit case.
No, no, no. I am
you know,
not arguing
but for
this.
the actual athlete, yeah, you and I are 100% on the same page. There's no benefit, in my opinion, to an athlete doing it. You've got your posterior chain loaded too often, or you're doing too much of a ground to at least mid-level body pull,
There's no
whether it be a
period.
deadlift.
There's no progression. You step into whatever you
Yeah,
step into for the day.
yeah,
So athletes need to have a progressive overload, just like anybody else. There needs to be
right.
some periodization. It can't just be
Absolutely.
this haphazard, named after whatever woman it is. The workout is Becky today. You're gonna climb a rope
Absolutely.
27 times and push a sled and then run 400 meters back and forth. It has to have some level of organization for athletes, right?
Yeah, and their only real progression is time, time, which, okay, for the normal human being, I can kind of give on that one. If you just really enjoy CrossFit and you want to use that for your strength and conditioning, and you work behind a desk at a bank,
Sure.
hats off to you. At least you're moving, at least you're doing something.
Sure.
I won't argue with you or tell you you're wrong, you know. But if you have athletic aspirations or you have athletic aspirations for your children, uh, stay away from CrossFit.
Yeah.
If you're uh I can I can understand where you could see the argument for CrossFit for first responders.
Again,
I would say
I've consulted with various law enforcement agencies, SWAT teams, civil engineers in the U.S. Air Force. I've consulted with various military organizations and law enforcement, and I've never advocated for CrossFit. So let me be clear on that. But again, at least you could say, I could
yeah,
see
yeah, yeah,
someone who's on a soapbox saying, you cannot say that with athletes.
absolutely.
Um, I'd love to we talked about the framework, but I want to kind of talk about just to help every parent or even any young athlete or even a high level athlete who happens to listen to this at some point.
Fire away,
Here's your
brother.
framework for what a good coach should do. And I'll end my speech with this. Number one, when you meet with that individual, right, besides the normal level of punctuality and professionalism that you would expect, they should really sit and set some very distinct goals with that athlete and their parents. Okay? If the coach is talking about packages right off the bat or is not getting to know the athlete, you need to keep finding another coach. They should really sit and talk about, okay, have you had any injuries? Well, no, but he has Osgood slaughters. Okay, I know all about Osgood's. Let me talk to you about that a little bit. Let me tell you what we can do to help with that in our training and how to avoid making that worse, right? Then there should be a really comprehensive, we talked about this before, movement assessment, right? I'm not going to train any athlete or any of any age until I know how he or she can move. And I might tailor that more for a different sport. If it's a golfer compared to an explosive athlete in a different
Mhm.
sport, but I'm going to do a very comprehensive evaluation because with the evaluation comes the buy-in. If I find that that kid cannot hold an isometric lunge for 2 seconds, I'm going to tell the parents, listen, I know you want Timmy to get faster, but here's what has to happen first. Do you
Mhm.
see how he can only hold it for 2 seconds on his right leg, but 20 seconds on his left leg? We need to figure that out. So there should be a conversation about goals, injuries, nutrition, sleep, comprehensive movement assessment. There should be breath work. If that kid is getting underweight the very first day, I don't care how athletic they are, something's wrong. A PVC pipe is one thing, a dowel rod is one thing, but if they're
Yeah.
under heavy load day one without learning how to breathe,
Run,
how to,
run.
and there needs to be an explanation. All right, Sean, you want Timmy to get, here is what the protocol is going to look like for the next 3 months. Let me show you some periodization of what our plan is. Phase one is going to be X, Y, and Z. I need to be able to form a framework for that individual. I don't care if it's in a group setting or one-on-one, but if you're not getting that as a parent from a coach, you have not found the right coach for your male or female, or your boy or girl athlete, period.
Absolutely. I agree 110%.
Yeah, that's the framework. That's how
I,
you
I
know.
think I think that that is something that is massively missed is that uh, people don't start with just a simple park cue,
Sure.
simple park cue, you know, or or they just hand it to the person and said, fill that out and come back.
Right. They don't think first about it.
Instead of sitting down with them and asking the questions and the coach filling it out, because you experience this, I'm sure, just like I do. A lot of times with clients, you're pulling teeth for that information. You know, you're trying it is literally like reaching in with a set of pliers and trying to pull their teeth out in order to get all that information out of them. But totally agree with you on what every parent or high level athlete should be looking for in a coach. I can't. You kind of left that one speechless. You dropped the mic on that one, brother.
Well, I'm just trying to form that framework because we can't help everybody directly. But if we give
Absolutely.
them a set of lenses to look through, at least they can have a distinct the ability to discern between different coaches versus do I go with this coach here,
Yeah.
who everybody says is so good, but I'm not sure. A couple of his athletes keep tearing their knees up. Or you need to have the discernment lenses, and so that's kind of the framework that I would suggest for any parent. That's how you know the coach is at least worth trying. Now, all that can happen. Right?
And
They
it
can
still go
explain everything,
badly.
and the
Yeah,
coach might
yeah,
still not be. Yeah,
yeah.
the coach might not. You still have to watch them in action. I encourage parents, at least in the beginning, before that relationship is formed, to go watch that coach train your daughter or son. Are they responsive? Do they look up to that coach? Is that coach getting the best out of your son or daughter? If not, I don't care how good they explain things. Keep searching, man. There's enough options out there.
Absolutely.
Find the right person.
Because all those things that you listed off, yes, they should build trust with the client. They
Trust.
absolutely should. And that's what this is. This is a trust building venture. You
100%.
know, clients have to trust the coach, but there's also that thing that it has to be the right fit.
Yes.
Can this coach, can this coach's personality mesh enough with the client in order to pull the most out of them?
Hugely important.
You know,
Hugely.
and people don't often think about that part. They
No.
see, they go, I heard you were a great coach. You got this person's kid to do great things. Okay, well, pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. Let me let me sit down, talk to the individual, let me get to know them and let me make the assessment of, can I work with this person, or no, we don't mesh. But I'll give you the number of somebody else to try. But again, that largely depends on integrity, and we all know that's in short order these days.
It's
You know,
tough when you're an
it's
entrepreneur,
tough.
but it's the best way to do it. So, like for Parabellum Fitness, for example, inevitably you're gonna have to get more coaches under you as you get that. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
goal ultimately.
yeah.
For that very reason, you might have a coach who meshes better with an athlete. Plus, your docket will get filled, and you have to be able to.
Oh,
That's why we
absolutely,
have
yes. Yeah,
our group of coaches because sometimes it's just a better fit or whatever the schedule, whatever it may be. So that's the framework I would use for looking for a coach. Conditioning cannot be just smoking your kid every time on the
Mhm.
field. Your kid is not a soldier, they're an athlete. If they're coming home dripping, soaking wet, and their knees are hurting after every practice, something's not right. It
Dude,
has to make sense. Just step
absolutely,
back and it has to make,
absolutely.
you know,
It has to make sense, and there has to be quantifiable data
boom,
to back that coach's claims up. If
100%.
if the quantifiable data is, well, look how they are when they get home. They're exhausted, right? See, I'm doing my job. No, that's subjective data. It could have been hot as crap there that day. Could have been humid, just like you said with Mikey. He cramped up twice running around. I'm sure Mikey's in good shape. I'm sure Mikey is hydrated, but it's also humid as crap there right now.
Okay. Yeah.
You, you know, so, but quantifiable data. Can the kid jump higher?
Yeah.
Is the kid any kind of any kind of speed data,
Absolutely.
because of people, and people also don't think about facility limitations.
Sure.
Where I'm at, I can do a flying 10. That's all.
Great.
That's the limitations of the facility.
Great.
But are they getting faster?
Yeah.
You know, is that happening? Are they holding that wall sit a little bit
Yeah.
longer
And I
without, looking like they're dying?
right?
Does it become easier for them? There's that quantifiable data. I've only had one parent ask me for that.
Shocking,
And
isn't it?
it's shocking. One
Yeah.
parent. And
Yeah.
he has an exercise phys degree. He got his exercise phys degree like 25 years ago.
Yeah. That's
He
right.
told me that. He goes, I kind of got an idea of what you're doing, man. My degree is really old and I haven't looked at the field in probably 15 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's new. But he said, when are you going to do data? And I said, well, that's your kid's first night. You're going to get data tonight. And then we're going to do data again in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're going to do data every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
However, remember, progress with any youth athlete is not linear.
Correct.
We hope it kind of takes that upward trajectory, but you got to understand there's a few valleys and things like that, because who knows? The day we test, the kid may be tired.
Yeah. We don't train in a vacuum. There's other external
Yeah,
influences on this kid's life. He may not have slept well. He might
Yeah.
have a
He may
test.
not have eaten anything. He may not have drank water. He may have had too much sugar, may not have enough. Who knows?
His
You know,
coaches in football may have run him to the ground. His legs are just
right.
exhausted. Yeah, there's a lot of
So
variables there.
I just think that, but it has shocked me that only one parent's asked for that.
Yeah,
Only
for
one.
sure.
And
Yeah,
the thing is, I'll offer it like, hey, here's the data. And parents are kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you what it means. Oh, okay. I just assume my kid's getting better with you. Well, don't do that.
right.
And then they're shocked, like, what do you mean don't do that? I don't want you to assume. I want you to know they are,
Sure,
because that's what builds my business. When
sure.
it comes to their conditioning, I want, with the youth league here, I see parents looking like, what is this guy doing? He is nuts. He's nuts. And then their kid comes off the field and they're like, coach made how to block make sense, but that ball was really heavy and having to chase it down sucked.
Sure.
What do you mean? I thought that you were just throwing the ball over there. No, he's teaching us how to block
Yeah,
and sprint.
yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a little bit of sense.
yeah.
When I told everybody we were going to do the NFL three cone drill, somebody went, "These are kids, man." I'm aware. I'm aware.
All
But
right. Because it's an NFL drill doesn't mean they can't do it. It's not
the
like they're
yeah, the
right.
sooner they learn how to do it, and I
Absolutely.
again, I hearken right back to the Army days, where I taught guys room clearing and I taught them flow instead of strong pointing.
Sure.
And I remember I had a boss like, they're not ready for that. Well, you know how we get them ready for that? How? Same way we did with basic trainees when we took them to shoot. We always wanted the kids who had never shot a day in their life
Absolutely.
because they had no bad habits.
Correct. They're a
So
blank slate.
if we teach them this, they don't know anything other than the right way.
Right.
Same thing with NFL combine cone drills. They don't know any better.
Sure.
So they've been learning it and seeing it. Hopefully, when they get to the high school level, they're that much better because they've been doing this stuff forever at this
For
point.
years. For
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
for
No problem.
years.
Yeah.
So I just, these are things that that's why I love having you on, because I can kind of go on a rant and you get it. You're like, yep, I've seen it. I know what you're saying. Even if you don't agree with me, which if you don't agree with me, I have no problem feeling corrected
I
by
would
you.
tell you, heartbeat. No, I think it's right. Check out my
You know,
mug. Can you see my mug or no? You probably can't see it. It's backwards.
keep calm and call the infantry.
So I was drinking magnesium, and we talk about it next time as far as recovery protocols
Oh,
for
yeah,
athletes, because that's
magnesium.
another conversation. But magnesium that's going to help knock me out tonight. But that's another thing we need to talk about, is getting a dialed-in recovery protocol for these athletes, because we ain't building any muscle in the gym or on the field. We're just tearing it up. How do we build it back? How do they rest and recover and come back stronger than ever? So great conversation, man, as I expected it to
Okay,
be.
you guys already heard the next episode. Gary picked it. We're going to talk recovery. We're going to do that the week after next. Next week I'll have another special guest, but Gary and I were just talking about this. We're gonna do this every other week.
Yeah,
Um, so please tune in, uh, learn, learn. That's what this is for. My business is on the line. If you want to visit the website or visit social media, please, by all means, hit me up with a DM. Hit me, you can find all my social medias. They're Parabellum Fitness LLC. Uh, Visit Fit Method Charlotte online. What Anytime, and please just start learning, because yes, it is a business, folks, but we love to see people succeed.
100%. That's what we're doing it for, man.
We know your results will lead to better business, and so we actually care. We're not trying to be the viral uh, Instagram coaches. We don't care about that.
Driven by a higher power than that, man. We are
Amen.
a higher
Amen.
power, so no doubt.
Get into that, you lose godly integrity.
No doubt. I've seen it many times.
You
We don't
know,
want that. So
no, no, want to keep following the Lord, and we want. I know, for me, Parabellum should be a part of a ministry. That's what I want it to be.
I love it, man.
You know, it's opening the door to speak to youth athletes or anyone about just the goodness of God
Amen to
and the
that.
love of Jesus Christ.
Amen to that. Times 1,000.
So, you got any parting thoughts, brother?
Nah, man, I was an honor. We'll get together soon. Like I said, I'll be excited to come on every couple weeks. Great stuff to talk
Absolutely.
about. We'll try to keep that framework of trying to educate those who listen to like have those discernment glasses to be able to kind of figure out, am I doing
Absolutely.
right? Am I investing the right amount of time and money with this coach versus another coach? And we'll try to kind of be not just educational in a traditional sense of teaching them exercises or whatever, but giving them again that vision to be able to discern and help them navigate their own path or their child's own path in the fitness and sports performance world.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I love it. I
All
appreciate you.
right. Thank you, man.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Always.
All right, brother.
See you soon.